This is Abe Friedtanzer from Awards Radar, and I'm so thrilled to be speaking with Jane Krakowski about Schmigadoon. How are you today, Jane?
I'm really well. How are you?
I'm good. I'm good. We had the chance to meet briefly last week at the For Your Consideration screening, where I was the last one online on the carpet, and you came over and you high fived me, and then you promptly apologized and said that this was not red carpet behavior, but something you do at home with your child.
Yeah. Yeah. I was like, oh wait, I forgot. I gotta it's like, your inside voice. I gotta remember not to do that stuff. It was so random because I spoke to a bunch of other people who didn't do it. It was something about you, Abe, that made me just want to go in and high five you.
Well, I really appreciate it. I think it's a good vibe because that's certainly not like what we see on Schmigadoon. Schmigadoon is a little bit more wacky and polished and just, a bit more of a throwback to before the time of high fives back,
Yeah,
in the
yeah,
era
yeah.
of Chicago. So I know you've done a lot with musical theater. Do you have a particular favorite era of musicals or a favorite musical?
It's definitely the era that Chicago is in now. The musicals of the late 60s, 70s were the great influences on me when I was growing up. I was just a young lass growing up in New Jersey, coming in to see every Broadway musical, hoping to maybe do this one day. And these were all the shows I saw: the Michael Bennett's, the Chorus Line, Bob Fosse's Chicago, uh, Bob Fosse's Dancing, like all of these sexier, darker musicals were the ones that influenced me so much. So when Cinco said that's what season two was going to be, I was like, oh, I know these. These are my faves. I think there's something I never really associated to, although I loved Schmigadoon season one. Obviously I was just one very small part of it, but I never really got those big Oklahomas, the ones with the flying gingham skirts. I was always much more interested in the darker, more cynical side of the musicals. And I sort of realized as I got older, I think it's because it was the first time that the women leads were not ingenues. They were Gwen Verdon, they were Cheetah Rivera, they were sexy, dancing, strong, independent, quirky women, which kind of makes sense now that I think about it. But these were just the women that I had seen up there and admired and sort of emulated, which kind of comes full circle when I now think about it, because I was never really going to fit into the ingenue slot.
One thing I really like about Schmigadoon is that most of the cast is preserved from season one, but everybody has different size roles. The same thing with Dove, was a very small part of season one, and now she's very prominent, and so that's very cool. And I mean, Bobby makes a very immediate impression, and especially in the early half of the season, just continues to do so. That courtroom scene, especially, feels like one of the most lavish that this show has put on. What was it like creating that?
Well, it was obviously incredible when I read it on the page. I was like, wow, okay, thank you, Cinco, for writing all this for me. And then we had some conversations about sort of what special skills I had that we could fill it with. We knew we needed all the bells and whistles to fill the special skill slot of it. Um, it was it was such a large set. I mean, the whole world changed so different, it's so different in season two. Our entire set was like a little sort of cul-de-sac, and all the scenes from season one, all the scenes were actually in those little houses. Like, we actually filmed in the tiny houses that were on that cul-de-sac as the interiors. So it was such an intimate small world. And then we got to Chicago, and we were on a giant back lot of a studio where they had built an entire city. So we knew the game was very different this time. And I think one of my favorite things about working on this project is that we do come back season after season as different characters. I mean, that's just a dream for all of us, especially since we're all such a musical theater fans and have done a bunch of musical theater, that we all then get to play, many dream roles in one one or two seasons of this show. Um, Working on the number was just this amazing collaboration with what special skills I had, the incredible material that Cinco wrote, and then getting to work with Chris Catelli on what would be the sort of physical vocabulary of the character, which I really love doing. One of my favorite parts of working in the theater is the rehearsal process, and getting that opportunity to create with the choreographer in front of a mirror and find out which character will have what vocabulary and what dialogue physically. And I think he did a really great job of making mine sort of the lane that my character is in versus say Dove's Sally Bowles, or whoever the characters are, that we all had a very different physical dialogue and selection to choose from. Obviously, the minute I heard that anytime Bobby walks and talks, she has a vamp that goes underneath her, which just I found hilarious, very Roxy like. So we wanted to pick steps for that that would invoke Roxy. And then in the courtroom, we wanted to put as many Fosse steps as we could. I told Chris at one point that I'd always wanted to learn the hot honey rag from Chicago. And he was like, well, let me teach it to you now. We'll put some of those steps in. And I was like, really? Like I just thought I would do it on TikTok or in my living room. I didn't ever expect that it would make it into the show. So all those different references are really fun for me and for Chris to sort of collaborate on and put them in for the people that know. And if you don't know, it's just great choreography.
I agree, and I think I'm more of the people who don't know, even though I do know Chicago, and I feel like that, when I look at things, I think I know who like one or two people are supposed to be. The rest, I'm just sort of guessing.
Right.
But I did have the chance to see you on Broadway and She Loves Me a number of years ago, and that was
Nice.
obviously tonally so different from this, even though
Yeah.
like the era isn't so crazy different. But that was really a lot of fun, and I know people get a special joy who are very into and knowledgeable about theater from watching this show.
Yeah, yeah. It was also one of those a very special day of filming. We basically did the entire number in one day. We came back the second day for like one extra shot. They realized we needed one line on camera that we didn't have, so we went back and got one more shot the next morning. But it's a giant number to try to achieve in one day, and it was one of those days where I just felt we showed it to the cast and the crew at 7 in the morning or whatever time we got our hair and makeup and the out of hair and makeup and the day started, and you could see everyone go like, oh man, like we got to all like buckle down to get this shot in one day and the time that we had allotted. And it was so amazing because it felt like every department and every team came together to try to get every shot that we possibly could to cut it together to make this wonderful number. And it's just one of those things where you sort of need everybody to make that day happen. And it was one of those very special days on set that I remember finishing the day exhilarated and yet exhausted because it was so physically challenging, but yet just being so thankful to everybody in the room for getting every shot we needed on camera before it was over. Um, and so I look at it as one of my favorite days of filming in my career, really, because I know it's one of a kind, and maybe once in a lifetime that'll get a big number like this to be filmed forever. But also that everyone in the cast and the crew just sort of pulled together to make it all get shot in the small amount of time we had. And I find it personally exhilarating to get to fly in from the ceiling and
Oh, totally.
fly on the set on a
Yeah.
trapeze upside down, doing any trick I could try or that I could try to learn in the short amount of time allotted before filming was a great high for me, and again, a once in a lifetime opportunity.
What was it like to see some of it with an audience?
The first day I saw it, I just remember like being like kind of like, oh my God, I had never seen it that big. So it's pretty wild. I feel like for me to get through those kinds of characters or portrayals as an actress, I need to fully embody that person. But then when I'm me watching it, I was sort of just like, oh my goodness, okay, okay, everybody's watching this right now. I don't know how to describe that feeling really, but I was thrilled to share it with everybody. But um, I don't know, kind of amazed and shy about the response to it. Mhm.
As you said, this show has a great cast that returns, from season one, but you also have a fantastic new addition who I know has been a frequent collaborator of yours in the past, who had very nice things to say about you, and that's Titus Burgess. What can you say about the chance to sort of work with him again?
Right. Well, when I heard he was joining our cast, I couldn't think of anybody else that should be joining our cast, really. He was the perfect addition. And then to learn that he would be playing, so the leading player, narrator of our story was just perfect. I mean, we have a joke now that we don't do anything musical without each other at this point, whether it's musical or comedy, which we love. We are very close friends. I adore him. We're about to do an off-Broadway concert together for Audible coming up in July. We continue to be creative partners. I think what was really great was getting to bring him into our troupe of players and everybody embracing him so much, and then seeing what a great job he did. When I got to watch the show back, I just was, he's got that special glint in his eye that only Titus has, that little like wink and nod to the audience, that little slightly devious thing that just makes you love him and makes you laugh at what he's trying to do. So I think he did an incredible job, and it was a very special. The first number we did was his, so it wasn't like we gave him time to warm up into the group. The very first number was "Welcome to Chicago," so it was like, all right, here we go. Here's the whole cast. You're in it, and we're gonna like do our jazz hands. And he was very welcomed in by the whole group, and I'm so happy he's part of our troupe now.
Great. I really did enjoy your last big TV collaboration, Unbreakable Kimmy Schmidt, which I feel like is sort of like if Schmigadoon wasn't a musical and everything was just sort of wild and crazy. Was it as crazy an experience to make that show, like the finished product that we saw?
Of Unbreakable Kimmy Schmidt.
Yeah,
That show is just so well scripted and so well run and organized and created by the great Tina Fey and Robert Carlock and the incredible team of writers that they had, that I don't think it was so crazy necessarily to film, because it was so well done and so scripted on the page. But we had some, I mean, look, it's like Ellie Kemper, me, Carol Kane, Titus, like, I mean, hilarity is going to ensue every day. Tina Fey being there, adding jokes on the fly and whatever we come up with to film. The great Meredith Scardino, who now has Girls Five Eva on TV. I mean, it's just a great collaboration. I feel like my memory of that time is so thankful that I got to continue my collaboration with that great group of people. I was so fully aware while making 30 Rock that I was getting to work with my dream people and dream comedy material. And then for it to come back again and get to work with them again on Unbreakable Kimmy Schmidt was just like an extension of luck for me, really. So the fact that Titus and I have sort of come on into here, I feel that same greatness with Cinco, really. I think with what Cinco is writing, he is the best at it to be doing it. So he's best in show for what we want in this world of musical comedy. And I feel really lucky that this is the first show where I'm fully getting to combine my love and experience from my musical theater world and my love and experience in television comedy. And it's like this hybrid that brings them both together. And I feel like, to me, it's like the perfect cacophony of a role for me.
it's really great. I did get a lot of enthusiasm for the rural juror when I mentioned that I was talking to you. People seem to be so they want to see more of that. I mean, I know 30 Rock, there was that, that pandemic reunion episode. Do you think that either Kimmy or 30 Rock are those shows likely to have continuations in some sort in the future?
I don't know. We sure did have fun coming back and making that at-home pandemic episode. That was super fun. And Kimmy got to make an interactive special after the series was done. I feel like that probably has the greater chance of, we always talked about maybe doing a Christmas special. I don't know if it'll ever happen. We're kind of a few years out at this point. I don't know if we could all go back and revive our roles, or if Tina and Robert would even want to, but I think it would be really special, a special reunion to put us all together. I love that group, and I hope to be reunited with them on a bigger scale at some point in my career. I would love to work with them again.
My favorite things about the Kimmy Interactive special is that you have the option to skip the credits, and if you do it, they play you a longer version of the credits because everybody's so used to doing that, on Netflix. I thought that was just very, very cool.
Exactly.
So
It was a nod to its own self on Netflix. Cute.
oh, absolutely. I also want to ask you about a show that I don't think is nearly as popular as all these, and that's Dickinson, which I really, really enjoyed. What was
Oh,
it
I'm
like
so
to be a
glad.
part of that show? Yeah.
Yeah, I was a big Emily Dickinson fan prior to knowing about the series coming up. And it was a great influence in my childhood. My mom was a big Dickinson fan, and she studied women's studies back in college when that was the trend. And so when I saw there was this sort of off-center dramedy about Emily Dickinson, I was like, oh, I really want to be a part of this. Um, but yeah, it never really found its like big audience, but I do think the episodes are beautiful and beautifully told. And I think it's a great show. If people will find it now, maybe one day more people will find it.
You seem to have a knack for choosing really great, interesting projects. Do you have anything else coming up? Are you going back to Broadway anytime soon?
Oh, I would love to find something to do on Broadway. I'm really, really missing it. Really, it's really hard to do Broadway, and I kind of miss that exhaustion and the discipline of doing it. I love doing it. I feel like it brings me back to the center of me when I get to go back and do theater. So I hope to find something. I hope someone will want to do something with me or create something for me or find the right project for me very soon because I would love to go back on the stage.
Wonderful. Well, it's been lovely to speak with you, and good luck with Schmigadoon and everything else.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate talking with you.